there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we are talking Traitors Us Season 2. I just binge watched the first 3 episodes and I'm all in. I had some concerns about this being an all celebrity / reality TV season, but I'm thoroughly entertained. I hope though that Season 3 goes back to a mix of both celebrities and regular applicants as well. Like, I feel like it's like a nice trade-off, because I like the non-celebrities really trying to figure out like who are the traitors. I thought that was a really nice dynamic, but I'm here for this because casting did their thing. Alan Cumming, he's hilarious to me. He's even more dramatic and more chaotic this season too. I have no idea why. And then the outfits, some of the outfits are even a lot more like in your face and outrageous and everything else. And so there's a few changes this season. They're approaching how they're doing like the immunity and everything else. They've introduced it like right off the bat, and it's a part of up to this point every challenge thus far. There's like 3 opportunities to obtain immunity shields, and you have to like decide whether or not you're going to help your team complete the mission and win all the money, or you're going to go look out for yourself first and make sure you're safe. Also, it looks like there's some changes to the set. There's some additional rooms and things that they've added. So you see there's more areas for people to congregate and talk game and all of the things, which is a little bit different from last season, because last season I felt like they were like really congested and limited on what they could talk about and everything else. Also, I am here for the initial traitors that were selected, and that was a different approach too. Normally it's like 3 off the bat was what I remember season 1 being, but I like this twist where 2 traitors were selected, and then they had to recruit a 3rd person, whereas I don't know if you'll recall last season, I believe they started off with 3 traitors, and then if a traitor was eliminated, they had to replace the traitor with somebody else. But nonetheless, the traitors who they selected first was Dan and Phaedra, and I felt that these couldn't be more appropriate people to start off being traitors. I was pulling for Janelle to be a traitor, but maybe that still can happen down the line. And then ultimately they decided to recruit a 3rd traitor, and they were deciding between Janelle, Poverty, Larsa, and Sandra, and they ended up going with Parvati because she's kind of a Black Widow. For those of you who are familiar with her game on Survivor, you think you're like really cool with her and all of the things, and then next thing you know she like strikes and you're completely like, what? So first episode we had this challenge where there were like these puzzle pieces to a shield that was like distributed out in water. And, the cast had to, put all these puzzle pieces, get all these puzzle pieces. However, there was a map that had, like, what the shield should look like, and it was, like, in a slew of different bottles that the cast had to go through. However, they only had 40 minutes to complete the challenge, and they started off, like, basically being tied up. So they had to untie themselves, figure out who was going to go on the canoe and everything else. The former White House correspondent guy, who is an older gentleman, he is just cracking me up in all these challenges, because bless his heart, he's trying, but then he just keeps falling and all these things, and it's just hilarious. But it's cute that he is giving this his all. Like, I'm glad that there's like no discrimination against age or anything like that. Janelle was one of the earlier people to get free, and she immediately, bolts for the immunity. She's treating this, her and Dan are playing this like it's Big Brother. Janelle views these immunity shields as if they are veto, like veto necklaces, and I'm like, wait, like what is happening? And so she didn't bother like helping the rest of her castmates to get untied. Nonetheless, there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and ultimately they figured out the task barely with seconds to go to get the puzzle together. And so it was just interesting, like, seeing everything. I was here for the first murder, so spoiler alert, Bananas was the first to go. I am here for this. People who are taking out, your stereotypical, athletic guys, the people who are going to either be able to get immunity several times or win a lot of challenges, I think those are people that should be taken out first, because you do not want a situation as you get to less people towards the end where somebody can just basically win all the way out, or potentially luck themselves into becoming a traitor themselves or whatever, or obtaining immunity and everything else. You don't want those problems. So I am here for them getting out Bananas. I mean, he's won the challenge 7 times anyways. I'm sure this is not going to hurt his ego. He tried it with Alan, saying, how do you feel being the second best dressed here? And Alan was like, bleep what? What are you saying? Also, Trishelle, I keep wanting to root for her from the real world, but I don't like how she instigates these fights with black women. I remember distinctly the fight that she instigated with Anissa, also from the real world, and I did not like the fight that she instigated with Peppermint that wasn't even a thing. She basically, they were joking as far as whoever got murdered, if Trishelle got murdered, she knew it was Peppermint, and tried to say that Peppermint gave this aggressive reaction look on her face when Peppermint just gave a look, it wasn't even anything that was serious or to make a big deal of. But I think Trishelle did that on purpose because she wanted to paint a target on Peppermint's back. But again, I just think some people are just unfamiliar with different facial expressions and how certain black people are, and they just always think the worst whenever you give a certain look or give a certain reaction, and this was completely unnecessary. Ultimately, this resulted in Peppermint having a target on her back that was unnecessary. They basically grilled her the next morning after the murder at breakfast, trying to accuse her of this being a thing, and then throughout the day, I guess she had a Freudian slip in a conversation, and was misconstruing the traitor thing, in which they thought she was a traitor. And I was like, how do you guys think she's a traitor if she's being this sloppy? Some of their rationales just didn't make any sense at all. And I don't like the herd mentality that's taking place. So it's all because Trishelle instigated and made a mountain out of molehill in a conversation that we're supposed to just take her word for it. And, I had a problem with that. Also, in the second episode, Dan was one of the people who wanted an immunity shield, who obviously is one of the traitors. He thinks that this is throwing people off of his scent, but people are starting to get on to him because he's playing this Big Brother, and he's being very quiet, being very secretive, and all these things, even though that isn't part of his personality. But he needs to build alliances and build friendships in this group so that he's not suspecting to any of them. And right now, he's a huge suspect to them. So I'm a little concerned. I don't know if he is going to be able to last the whole show. We'll be able to see. But ultimately, at the round table, they decided to gang up on Peppermint. There were some people with sense who felt as though, this was just a witch hunt. Ultimately, Peppermint was eliminated, was the first person to get banished from the round table, and basically confirmed that she was not a traitor, and that she was a faithful, and everybody was freaking out. Sheree said that she was pissed because she was convinced to change her mind and vote for Peppermint and all of these things. And then people are instigating, such as MJ and Larsa, that people who are not saying anything through the deliberations are suspicious, are the traitors. And I don't necessarily agree with that. There are some people who are just naturally quiet, and if you already said things that people already agree with, or if you speak up, that could potentially put a target on your back as well. So I just agreed with that logic. I mean, yes, it technically is true as it applies to Dan, but nonetheless, I just felt it was baseless. Other than that, also, the next murder I was excited about is they murdered Larsa's boyfriend, Marcus. I think Marcus was on to, Dan. I think he was on to a few people in terms of people who are suspicious, because he even tried to call out Dan after the round table, saying how quiet he was and all of the things. And, Dan's looking at him what? So I think it was a very smart move for the Traitors to murder, Larsa's man, because here's the thing, we don't need a couple on the show, number one. And, number two, I just felt as though with the game that they had, in the mission that they had earlier, they said that, like, Marcus was the most trustworthy and all those things, and then they said Dan needs to speak up more. So it was like they were trying to instigate some stuff with these games, for sure. And, so I was happy. Larsa, of course, was devastated, and she's like, I'm gonna get revenge, and blah, 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 blah. I do think Marcus might have told her about the situation, because she didn't seem as shocked as I was anticipating, and I feel like he told her to go after Dan. I feel like, because for whatever reason, she just immediately honed in on trying to get Dan out of the game, and she wasn't that way before. She didn't feel that strongly before. And they've just completely zeroed in that it is a man that is responsible for Marcus being eliminated because of the simple fact that Bananas went first and now Marcus. CT has been cracking me up on this show, and his friendship with Phaedra is absolutely hilarious. And then the first episode, Phaedra calling Bananas, she thought he was the repo man. I thought that was just completely hilarious. This is the perfect game for Phaedra. I hope she goes far, because the lying, the manipulation, the conniving, all that stuff, like, she is playing it cool. She is undetected. She is under the radar. And I think she also may have a Housewives alliance as well with Larsa, Sheree, and Tamra. So I'm also keeping an eye out on that. And so then next we have in the third episode, we have another banishment and another murder. So the next banishment was they decided all to gang up on Max from Dancing with the Stars, and said that his reactions to, Marcus being murdered was suspicious, and that he was just very, like, fidgety and all these things, like, based off of nothing. And then Pilot Peter is trying to instigate with Kevin that they're going to pretend to be mad at each other and vote for each other at the round table to try to cause confusion among the traitors. And I was like, okay. But actually, it kind of backfired in the sense if more people are on to Kevin, because he got a lot more votes than I was expecting him to. So that's not a good sign moving forward for him. Ultimately, the boxer, he is the one who kind of instigated Max's demise. It was kind of similar to what Tricelle did ultimately, but it just wasn't orchestrated by drama. He was just going based off of body language. And ultimately, Max got banished at the round table, and he said he was a faithful as well. So then everybody was upset. They were wrong once again, although MJ and Larsa were pushing hard for Dan to be the one that is going to be eliminated. So I am very curious to see how this is going to go moving forward. I think Dan has to win immunity from here on out, because he is, like, target number one for these people. Also, they changed up how they were doing the next murder. So they said the next murder has to be done in plain sight. And I was like, what does that mean? And so basically they have to choose a chalet, which is like this poison cup, this poison goblet that people can drink out of. And it is supposed to, quote, kill whoever their target is. So Dan has conspired with Parvati that they need to get rid of Sheree because she's not really, like, doing anything, which is stupid. But really it's because she's cool with Phaedra. But nonetheless, Sheree's not doing anything. She's not a threat right now. And then they also talked about potentially, giving it to MJ, because MJ is on to Dan and all of these things. And then they were thinking also possibly Janelle as well. But, Poverty said that she was going to be the one who did it. And I love Phaedra because she basically was bogarting Parvati and, like, one at the bar, preventing Parvati from actually trying to give this drink to Sheree. And so she had to move on to another target. And I thought that was hilarious. So we left with a cliffhanger. We have no idea who ultimately is going to quote unquote drink this to their death and be killed in plain sight. no clue at all. So we'll have to see how that plays out in the next episode. And then we hear in like the season preview that like somebody's supposed to be dead, and you know, what are they doing? And then there's a secret player. So I'm wondering if a secret player is going to be a new cast member, or if it is going to potentially be one of these people who are eliminated that production likes. So we'll continue to monitor that as well. I am, you know, here for this season. I am here for the banishments thus far. I think they've been intelligent, but I feel like Dan and Janelle are playing this too much like Big Brother, and it's going to backfire. Janelle unnecessarily is making herself a target, like I said, going for these immunity shields like they are power of veto necklaces, and it's completely unnecessary. She was not on anybody's radar until she started doing this. So there is that. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. What do you guys think of this season of The Traitors? Have you watched the first 3 episodes? What do you think of the cast? I think so far so good. I'm happy with the Traitors and the selection of the Traitors, and I can't wait to see what happens from here. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.